During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO Podcast. Today I'm here with Andrea Bordenca. How are you doing today, Andrea?
This is awesome. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to allow me to interview. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So for the first question that I want to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
What do I do? Okay, what do I do? So why this is such a loaded question for me. I do many things. So I am what my friend Sarah calls multidimensional, which I think everyone in this room is that. So there are several different things that I do, and the theme for all of the things that I do, it's all about creating an inclusive and welcoming culture. So whether it's the physical space that we're in, which we're in a building called Venture Way Collaborative. It's a physical space on Venture Way here in Hadley. And really, the vision for this building is to welcome different members of the community to have a space for their voices to be heard. So that might be someone who has a nonprofit business who wants to launch it or speak about their offer. So I'll invite community members in so they have a platform. Tonight we have the Queer Valley Library. They do event series. They're having a movie night. This space is really an inclusive space for everybody to use. So this is a part of who I am. I also am the CEO of an organization called Desco Service. We primarily service healthcare technologies, our tables, EKG machines, and really there's only 3 of us who work here on a regular basis in this physical space. And we have 50 employees throughout the Eastern Seaboard who primarily work from their home, going to different hospital sites and surgery centers to fix medical equipment. So the culture of that is also the same. Even though it's not a physical building that we're all in, it's a place where I really pride myself on collaborating and hearing from all my employees. And I'm also the mom of 3 boys, 2 adult sons and a 15-year-old son. And my husband, I'm the wife of my husband, who is an artist, and a lot of his bright, colorful artwork is in the halls of this physical space.
Yeah, we've seen some of his art when we were walking around. It's nice.
Right?
Yeah, it's
it makes
really
me
good.
happy.
Yeah,
it's like joy, like filled beauty, and our house is full of that, and it makes me really happy.
So for you,
Yes.
Did you always know you wanted to be a CEO/entrepreneur? Like, was that always in your vision?
As I listen to your story and get to know you, I'm like, wow, he has known since he was 10 years old. My dad will tell me stories of when I was younger that I don't remember, that like I wanted to be in fashion and could I take, so Desco, I'm the 2nd generation owner of that business. So my dad founded it in 1970 and I've been the CEO for this is my 20th year there now. And when I was younger, I didn't quite understand what Desco did. So in my conversations with my dad, I'm like, oh, that's cool. You have your own company. Can I make it into a fashion business? Can I make it into different things? And he was like, honey, why don't you just work here? And I love to write. I've been writing poetry. I've been writing poetry and short stories since I can remember, since I think I could really hold a pen in my hand. And so he would say, if you want to write, do marketing. There's this place for you here. So I always knew I wanted to do something that had to do with like communication or expressing myself, but never really knew or understood or located myself as a CEO. I was an awkward kid, socially anxious, and so I don't think I ever knew or understood what a leader really was. Didn't really see myself as that as a young kid. It really wasn't until my dad, he had kidney cancer. He's okay. He's 80 now and he's got 1 kidney, but he's healthy and travels and all that stuff. It wasn't until that like he was ill over 20 years ago now that this was the succession plan. Oh, I'm sick, who wants to take over Desco? And my sister and I are like, I don't want to do it. Do you want to do it? My mom's, I don't want to do it. And we're like, what do we do? So my mom and I ended up coming together and saying, let's give this thing a shot. And so it wasn't a part of the succession planning or the conversation. It was just, this was the lifeblood that was feeding my parents' income, and they needed it. So I thought, I'm like, this might be able to help me and my husband and my growing family too. So it was who wants to do this? Let me jump in and give it a try. And here I am 20 years later as CEO.
What was that experience like for you, knowing you wanted to do fashion? You had no idea, thinking...
Yeah. I was like, art? I like art.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was uncomfortable. I had a few things that I feel like were some barriers, and then some things that were definitely opportunities for me. One of the barriers being I was the daughter of my father, so here I am, a woman coming into a male-dominated industry, and most of our employees, and I was going to say the leadership team, it was a very small leadership team at the time, and the person who was the business advisor was a man who was my dad's best friend, and he was not an advocate or a sponsor of me. He didn't think that I had the capacity to do this, and at the time I did have some mental health issues, so he wasn't totally off base. And so coming into it, being thrown into a situation where I did throw myself into, it was very challenging. And I remember going to an industry event where I was really excited to tell one of my dad's friends who also runs a business like Desco in another part of the country, oh, I'm going to go find this guy and tell him, like, I'm the CEO now. He's going to be so proud of me. And so when I went and found this guy and I told him, he like stood there for a second, looked at me to see if I was serious, and then started laughing. But he was laughing at me and then saying that I didn't know what I was doing. Who am I to run a company? And in that moment I was like, oh my God. And I was in my 20s. I'm like, well, what if he's right? I don't know. And I remember like feeling this big and running out of that room where I'm like, all right, this is a space where here's someone who's going to really amplify me, really made me feel that big. And so I went to the bathroom, had a good cry, and then I was like, all right, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is new for me. So I have a choice here. I can believe what he's saying, that I'm doomed to fail, or I can do what it takes to learn and seek out the people who might help me in this. So that was like a very pivotal point for me, say I don't have to believe all the stories that I'm told about me, and that with commitment and coaching I can figure this out. And so I surrounded myself with a lot of smart people who believed in me just like I believed in them.
So first, before you got in and you went into that room, like, how much knowledge did you really have inside of your business?
I had worked on and off at Desco since I was in middle school, and I did some like quality assurance work. I did some dispatching, service calls come in. And I had a sense, like I knew some of our customers and I could see things that I knew could be improved. So I'm like, I think I can do this. Like I see certain things and I love people. So I'm like very I'm not like a super extrovert. I'm like in the middle, introvert, extrovert. And so I love people, but I also need my downtime. So being able to cultivate relationships where I'm like, all right, if I can reach out to some of our employees, but also our customers to get a sense of what they want, what they need, can I figure this out? Where I didn't have a whole lot, like I knew what the business did, but I didn't know the extent. There's so many different people who are trained in different modalities, and I didn't know where everyone lived. I didn't know the modalities they did, so it was difficult for me to really understand and discern like how to really do this logistically. So I needed people's voices in this. So I would just ask questions like, what's working, what's not working, like real basic questions. What do you need the most? What do we do the best? What do you see needs to be improved? And then how do we do this together? And those were conversations that I had with our employees and also our customers. And I feel like that was how the pathway for me to learn more about what we do was built, just because I had a lot of ignorance.
On the flip side, you had people that you thought you can go to help you, and then you realize that they were just trying to shut you down. So how are you able to deal with that to make sure that you have that self-confidence, say, I don't care what you have to say about me, I'm gonna find a way to make sure this business is still successful.
So up until that point, like the messages that I would receive about just life in general were, be clear about what you want in life and then you'll get it. what I realized is just as important that wasn't communicated to me, but I experienced, was you need to surround yourself with people who believe in what you believe in. So you need to have standards. I'm like, all right, I need to have standards for what it is, like ambition, wanting to learn, and also getting like the hard feedback from people who are saying like, hey, this, you might want to be careful of this or look out for this. But to the point I was talking to your dad about a little bit earlier was the people who would tell me like, you're wrong, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. I found that I did not have a high tolerance for that type of communication because I don't communicate that way to people. So then I'm like, all right, what are the standards? I need people who are going to communicate hard truths with me, but in a way where it's like they're coaching and sponsoring and mentoring me in the same way. Speak from your experience, I'll speak from my experience, and let's see like where we agree, where we disagree. But give me the information, and then me and my leadership role can decide this is the way we're going. And then communicating that back, thank you for the information. I'm going this way because I got the information and this feels the best aligned with our strategy. So being able to surround myself with people who aren't like there to put me down and tell me that I can't do it, but to tell me like, here are the things that you might want to be careful of, and I believe in. And it's, listen, I believe in you too. So that to me is just as important in being like clear in where I want to go. I need to surround myself with other people who see my potential in that as well. So I surround myself with those people.
That's great. So how were you able to do that? What were some ways that you were able to surround yourself with people that were willing to help you?
At great expense. So I, in the last 20 years, had some addiction. I was an alcoholic, so it's been 9 years, thank you, with no alcohol. And I realized that a part of like my addiction and my need to numb out, like I used to smoke cigarettes and that was a literal smoke screen for me. How can I hide from people? And I knew that's what I was doing, and I loved smoking too. So I'm like, all right, if I really want to be vulnerable and I really want, like I'm telling other people I believe in them and I want them to amplify their voice, I need to build confidence in myself. So I recognized there were a lot of people that were feeding my toxicity, that I was codependent sort of relationships and friendships. So I started to get really clear on the standards of what do I want in a relationship. And there's some people that I'm like, oh, they're fun, we can go for a bike ride, but I won't tell them my deepest, darkest secrets. And there's other people that I can tell them my deepest, darkest secrets and know that they're gonna hold it with great confidence and love. And so I started to learn how to discern based on how I felt around people, like really trusting that when I feel, like if I'm around someone and I feel drained after, to pay attention to how I feel. And when I'm around people who make me feel like alive and seen and heard, pay attention to that. So instead of making it right or wrong, or that person thinks that person's a good person, but I feel drained around them, it's like I'm gonna go by, engage and trust my somatic wisdom in that, and just be aware of that, and maybe not tell them my deepest, darkest secrets, and just see if it makes sense that we're acquaintances. Great. And if it grows into something else, great. But just be a little bit more guarded, because I can be like, come on in, and then I can get hurt. So a little bit more discerning.
What was like your first big win that you've had, and what was like the biggest lesson that you learned from that?
My first big, oh, that's a great question. You ask really good questions. I think for me, okay, so I learned that there's some conversations, even with like family or friends that are people I've known since I was younger, that when I started to have different conversations at first, like when I had those boundaries in place, at first there was like some upset because all of a sudden I'm not appeasing anymore. I'm not like bowing down to what they think, or like being like, if someone's guilting me or manipulating me to do something, I wasn't doing it anymore. And so at first it was very disruptive to the relationship, and then in my body it didn't feel so good either. But the more I stayed with that and the more I trusted, like, nope, this is like where I stand, and I want to be clear about who I am and what I need, and trust that and communicate it with kindness, but also not, if someone's saying, I need you to drive me 3 hours to go somewhere, and all they're doing is asking me to do stuff, but they're not doing anything reciprocal. It's not a reciprocal relationship. You always drive me, and I need your help, and I would help you. And in the past, I might be like, all right, let me drop everything and figure out how to get you to where you need to go. and then I'd feel like crap the whole time. So, you know what? I understand you need a ride, and when I ask you for your help, you're not there for me, so I have to say no. I need to protect my space, my boundaries. And then that person gets upset because all of a sudden I'm not doing the thing that they're accustomed to me doing, dropping everything for them. So then after a while, the less I was doing that, the more space I was making for healthier relationships. And then now I'm surrounded by people who, like, it is reciprocal. So it just feels my quality of life has drastically improved. So I would say that is not like there's no one point that I can think of right now that was like, that was the win, but it was more like a cumulative, like energetic, I don't need my drugs anymore. I don't need my alcohol anymore. I don't need to hide behind my smoking. I can actually be seen, have my boundaries, and feel like I wake up in the morning and I feel great. I don't feel depleted.
So somebody that might be struggling with addiction or like problems, because you said there's times you have mental problems. So what is some advice that you would give to somebody that's struggling in those departments?
First place is assess your relationships. And I always say to people, if you need someone who's going to make you feel like, or not make you feel, but if you need someone that is not judgmental, who's going to listen to you, call me. I will be that person for you. Many of us, when we're in these toxic sort of relationships, whether it's with substances or it's with people, it's because a lot of the people that surround us, and it could be by proximity. It could be we live on the same street as our aunt. Maybe our aunt's really toxic. And maybe we go to our aunt for certain things, but not other things. It's when we're seeking out those people that we think should give us support, and then they don't give us support. And then we're resentful, and then we feel like a victim, that it's like, ooh, you know what, maybe don't go to that person for that because they're not going to give you what you need. So who are the people that can give you that amplification, that health? So that would be the first thing, is like, who are the people that you're surrounding yourself? Because you can choose who you're telling certain information to and who you're going to trust. And maybe the people that you think should listen to you aren't. And that's okay. You just need to find the people, look at your relationships and be honest about it. And that's hard. Easier said than done. Like, I've heard a lot of people over the years tell me, Andrea, I get it. You're in this great place. You have all these great people in your life, and I don't. And I'm like, I didn't always. This took years to get to a place where I feel like I'm very intentional about who I spend my time with, how I spend my time. It wasn't always this way. So yeah, it's the community that we choose to be around, I would say, is the first place to look.
What was the biggest risk that you had to take? So you talked about how you founded this building, making sure having like an environment for people to start to business, all that. So how was that risk like for you?
So the risk in this whole journey was really like pissing people off. So when I started to say no to some people and then yes to others, there was that like, what do you mean no? And it's like, all right, I want to be really thoughtful and intentional about why this is changing and how to communicate that in a way where I'm not sacrificing my needs and my wants and my quality of life. So there's some friendships that I don't have anymore because I've completed them. They no longer serve me, and they were mutually codependent and toxic. So that's hard because there's grief in the letting go of certain relationships where there's happy times too. We wouldn't be in a relationship if there wasn't some good in it. Even if it's 10% of the 100%, there's still that 10% of like happiness and joy and fun. So I would say that has been the trickiest thing over the years. Now, I'm happy to say that there's no one in my life that I'm like, I don't want them in my life. There was years where I'm like, this person, we shouldn't be in this relationship anymore. And I no longer have those toxic relationships.
So for somebody like myself, I'm a year into my journey of becoming a successful CEO. What is some advice that you would give to somebody like myself?
Basically, do what you're doing. You surround yourself. You interview leaders in this podcast. You're going around, you're talking to people who are out there. The best thing that we can do, no matter how old we are, is to listen to other people's experience and say, ooh, there's something like, how do we get the biggest bang for our buck, so to speak? It's like talking to people who are doing different things, who can give us their wisdom and pass it on. So I would say, seek out the people be intentional about it. If there are people that are doing things in the community or in the world that you're digging, then, you know, I would recommend people reach out to those people for just not even mentorship or sponsorship. Just feel, can I chat with you and bend your ear? These are some of the things that I'm wrestling with at this stage of my career. And then in a year, 2 years, you're going to be at a different place. So then it's like, all right, who can you reach out then? Always getting feedback. I always surround myself with people who I'm like, ooh, there's someplace I want to be, or they're showing up in the world in a way that I really want to show up. I need to like talk to them and learn like what is their journey, what is their path, and what can I learn from them, and then maybe they can learn something from me too.
So if we were to go back 20 years where you first got your position as a CEO of Desco, what is something that you would do differently that you know now?
I would have been way more present with my kids. So my initial interpretation of what a CEO was, or at least the CEO that I thought that I needed to be, was I need to show my employees that I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and work long hours too. And I was, but at the expense of my kids. So in the morning, my husband was the primary caregiver for my kids. So they would be getting ready for school and I would want to be around them. So I would be at the kitchen table on my laptop checking my emails at 6 in the morning, and I was really tense. So then the kids might come up to me as young kids, like asking like, hey mom, look at this. And I'd be like, do you see it working? And I'd be all tense. And then Chris, my husband, would be like, come on kids. And he was so diplomatic about it. Like he never said anything to me about it. Like he would just take the kids and redirect them. And what I realized was I was trying to show up in a certain way for my employees, and in a way that no one was asking me to, in a way that I thought that they think I should show up, but I wasn't really taking care of what does my husband need from me now. So that took me probably a good 10 years to realize what's the mom. Intentional about what's the leader I want to be, what's the mom, what's the wife I want to be. So I would do that a lot sooner than 10 years.
So what were some ways that you were able to have a better work-life balance?
I surrounded myself with a lot of coaches. So I went to a couple of different coaching schools. There's Strozzi in California, which is a nervous system, somatics-based, really spends a lot of time on how we're showing up, like our physical presence in the world. And Newfield Network Coaching, which is about like emotions, and then the Institute for Generative Leadership, which is a leadership academy that also has like coaches. So there's like business leaders and also coaches. And when I was going through that, being surrounded by other coaches and leaders who are like in this, like how do I be a better person for my culture, for myself, for life holistically, I started to recognize that there's a certain interpretation that I'm living that I can actually redefine that. I never knew or thought that I could. So it was through all of that learning and being surrounded by other people that I recognized that there's a different way that we can create new stories for ourselves that I just didn't know was possible.
What was the biggest lesson that you learned from a failure?
I'd say it was for me, it was alcohol, where I would drink so much that I would black out like on a regular basis, and I would be really mean and I wouldn't remember it. So I would be verbally abusive, and my husband, who is very patient, understood, like he knew where I was coming from because he knows my past and there's some trauma in my past, and he was like, hey, I know that you're projecting something that's upsetting to you, and I know it's not supposed to be directed at me, and I don't appreciate it. So like the next day when I wake up, I'm like, I said that to you, I did that, I'm so sorry. And he's like, I can't be mad at you because it wasn't you. And I'm like, but it was me. I chose to drink that much. So you need to be mad at me because I need to take responsibility for it. So he never told me to quit drinking. I quit on my own because I recognized that I need to take responsibility, and I will either hurt myself and not know it because I would black out, or I would hurt him, or I would hurt somebody else because I was making really poor decisions. So I think that nothing catastrophic happened in that, and I'm really grateful for that. So I was able to stop it before it became something way worse. But like, I would say that's a huge failure because I let it go on for up until I'm 49 now, so up until I was 40. Yeah.
So let's say you have to start, you don't have Desco, you don't have your other business, you don't have nothing, you got to start from scratch.
Yeah.
What would you do and how would you be able to become successful?
Ooh. I would write. So I just actually published a book. It's an ebook. I do public speaking coaching that I do because it was something that gave me great angst, and I learned a way to do it with practices. So I know a lot of people get afraid to speak, whether it's in a meeting or even one-on-one. So I published a book there, and I'm also writing a novel. I've always wanted to write, and it's one of those things I put to the side because I'm like, oh, I'm a CEO, I'm busy, I need to focus over here. And this is creative too, but I love to write. So I was making excuses for it. So I'm doing it now. So I feel very grateful and lucky and privileged that I'm able to do it at this point in my career in life. And if I were to do it all again, I'd probably start here knowing I want to trust that. I love to write, so why not write?
Let's talk about your first year at Desco.
Okay.
In your experience, you talking about how people really were trying to shut you down. They had no confidence in you whatsoever. People that you thought you could go to.
Yeah.
So how did that feel when you realized, when you started having a big wins in Desco? Oh wow, I'm really doing what they said I couldn't. How did that feel?
So a lot of it was older men, and especially because it's male-dominated field, and there were some people that had offered, some of our employees who were like, I can come to the office and I can show you some things. I'm like, thank you, I appreciate your support, and we'll seek you out for help, and I don't need you to be my boss. I thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I stayed real, I was humble, I was very open about these are things that I know and these are things that I don't know. Can you please guide me? And I experienced, not knowing that this would be the feeling, I experienced great trust, mutual trust by bringing people in. And for me, I felt like that was the only thing that I could do because I didn't know, so I needed people. So one of the superpowers that I've learned that I have is collaboration, bringing the voices in. So the more I did that early on, so my first year when I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but instead of being, I don't know what I'm doing, I'd say, hey, listen, this is where I want to go. What are the issues and what are the ways that you see that we can get there too? And the more I could see that our numbers were improving, our customers were a little bit happier, our employees got a little bit happier, it was like, oh, this feels good. It took a couple of years because there were a lot of people that I did need to let go because there are a lot of toxic people. My dad didn't like to fire people, so he would move people around in different positions, so the morale was low. So I'm like, I can't continue to do this. It's inequitable. The people that are working hard, we need standards. So what are the standards of work? What's the standards of an employee? So I would just bring in the star performers and say, let's create this together. And then we'd say, okay, here are the standards. You need to get training every year. There are certain ways you need to show up. And if people didn't do it, then it was like, okay, this is the consequence of that. So it took, I would say, a couple of years to really feel that reward and vindication. When I came in, we weren't profitable. It took us 2 years to break even. And then every year after that, not only has our revenue increased year over year, but our profitability, even through COVID, has increased as well.
Wow.
So it wasn't an immediate thing, but boy, it felt good. And every year, I make sure I reflect back on the year before, so I'm not just being like, what do I need to focus on? I want to also celebrate all of the things and how far we've come. Yeah.
So what were some of the big differences that you did to make sure that you're able to change the way the business was running and turn it into a profitable business? And how were you able to keep those systems that were working?
Yeah. So the first place that I went to was looking at with the different roles, so if we have someone who's in a director role who's overseeing operations, what is it that every week we want as an outcome, every month I need to see, and at the end of the year. And then I would do the same. So we have field service employees, and that's the biggest concentration of our employee categories, field service. So for field services, what do we need people to demonstrate? And a lot of it was communication with the customer, making sure they were following up, making sure they were checking in. And then with our dispatchers, I'm pointing to Larry, our dispatchers, they need to be able to communicate bad news to customers. Hey, we're running late. Hey, we can't get there today. Hey, there is this. So having those standards of this is what the expectations are, here's how you need to communicate it, and giving them examples, like this is what it looks like when it's demonstrated, and this is what it looks like when it's not demonstrated. That took me probably a few years to figure out, because we have different regions and different directors in different regions, and they were all doing things differently at first. So then it was like, all right, we have our numbers are everywhere. If we lost a customer in one region, we'd have to make layoffs everywhere just because we weren't clear. So then we started to get really clear on what do we need to see in this region. So if we lose one customer, it's not going to affect another region. So those standards of what the expectations are and how they are concretely, like the outcomes. Like there's a certain level of profitability our directors need to reach. There's a certain number, like percentage of overhead that they need to be mindful of to help them with their hiring and their staffing thresholds. We learned that if we have more than 2 field service technicians out in the same week, that not only impacts profitability and our ability to bill our customers, it also puts a strain on our employees who are working that week because they have to pick up the slack. So if we have more than 2 employees out, it creates havoc for employees who might want to get home for dinner some nights. So there's those things that we've learned along the way. They're like, oh, here's a standard that we need to make sure. And until we have different information, we can change it. But for now, this is the standard, and we can review it every so often to see if it still is relevant.
What is some advice that you would give to yourself when you first started your business? Well, not first started, but first got into the CEO role.
To not doubt myself in that. So I would, when I was like, hey, we need to come up with standards for the role of directors at the time, and they were different directors at the time. A lot of them were inherited for me, like most people when they're getting into a position. And so there was a lot of pushback because I'm, first of all, working with mostly men. They're older, they're my dad's age, so I'm coming in, generation younger, and I'm saying these are the standards, and they're telling me I don't understand the nuances of the job. So I'm asking them, what do you see the nuances are? And then I would hear their stories, and I'd be like, oh, maybe I'm wrong, but yet like there were some things that didn't really jive with me. But I was like, oh, so I would step back a little bit because I tend to err on the side of trust.
Yeah.
And then I realized that there were some that were taking advantage of me. And so I think having that confidence and a little bit more fortitude, like we're talking about standards. This is a collaborative conversation. And so like, how do we get there together versus you're telling me my standard is wrong, your standard is right, and I'm believing you, so I'm gonna step back now and then just let you take advantage.
So how were you able to start to build your confidence? Because like you said, you're already coming into a male-dominated industry, and plus they're older than you, so you're probably thinking, oh, they know what they're talking about. So how are you able to build your confidence to realize maybe what I'm saying is right and they're just trying to lead me astray?
My husband is like my coach and consultant that I'm so grateful I have, because he can like discern and filter. So I'd come home, he's like brilliant in so many ways. I was laughing with him earlier because I'm like, why are you so smart and good at everything that you do? It's pissing me off and I love it. So I would come home and I would talk about these things, and he's, here's what I'm hearing and here's what I'm seeing, and you're doubting yourself. So he was really like advocating for me. Be like, you know what you're, trust yourself. So it was really like him as my anchor to really see, like I was getting in my head, like I'm confused and like they're right and I'm wrong. And he's like a man of principle and didn't get caught up in the story. He just saw like right through. He's, what are you trying to do? All right, here's what I hear what you're saying. And I'm like, so he was like reflecting back what he knew I was trying to do, saying that you have every right to create these standards, and here's a conversation I see you could have. So I would say having him was huge in that.
I just got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, I'm here.
So in my book, I'm a CEO, realistic CEO, Tony. He talked about the LBW.
Yes, the long board.
Yeah. So can you tell us about the LBW that you have to do in your career?
Yeah. So when it comes to administrative stuff, I have ADHD, and so like doing the administrative stuff is like LBW for sure. For me, it's like draining. So one of the things that I'm doing now is looking at our governance, our bylaws, and creating a board of directors. And I need to be able to, I can talk to people about it, but at the end of the day, I need to review it and I need to like make whatever updates I need to or approve it. So I would say stuff like that it takes me a little while. I need to like I need to caffeinate myself. I need to create the space. Like I need to give myself a whole day to just do that because it's LBW.
I just got one more question for you, and it's what's one fun fact about yourself?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask this. I listened to your podcast, and I'm so glad I did because I was like, oh my gosh, how would I answer this? I am an avid reader. So it's mid-June now, and I've completed 60 books so far this year.
This year?
Yeah.
60?
60.
Wow.
So I was just talking to my friend about this morning, and she's like, well, how do you, like, when? I'm like, I do audiobooks, and I have my Kindle, so I read my Kindle if I'm by the pool or bathtub or at the beach. I like having a physical book too. Physical books are my jam. So I have a physical book so I can also highlight. So when I'm going for a walk with my dog, like I listen to my audiobook. When I commute, I'm listening to my audiobook at night. I do watch TV and movies, like a ton, maybe a couple hours a night, an hour. I like to watch Jeopardy. Probably on average, I would say an hour a night I watch TV. The rest of the time is like listening, like when I'm eating my lunch, eating my breakfast, I listen to my audiobook. But I love it like when I'm waiting, like I pick up my son at school, I get there a little bit early so I can just read a book. So I fill in my spaces with reading, and it's a mix of like nonfiction and fiction. Yeah, little fun fact.
What has been your favorite book that you read this year?
Oh my God, I have so many. So there's a historical fiction. I've been digging historical fiction, which I never really have in the past, but with everything that's going on with the administration now, I'm like, I need to have some anchoring in like how it's been done in the past to see some hope for the future. There's an author, Kristen Hanna, who wrote a book, Women and the Nightingale. Those are two of my favorites. And then Kurt Vonnegut is one of my favorite all-time writers. Player Piano is one of my favorite. And then there's a nonfiction book that I go back to a lot, which is called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And he is a trauma physician who talks about how our bodies like store trauma and how like we can move through it through different modalities like yoga or breath work. That one is like, I go to it and underline it, mark it up. Yeah, sorry, you asked me what my favorite book was. I have many. I could go on about that, yes.
I was glad to listen to all the stories.
Can I give you a few more then? Okay. So for like nonfiction and for anyone who's interested in trauma addiction, Gabor Mate, so it's M-A-T-E is how he spells his name. He's a Canadian physician who talks about the correlation of disease and trauma. Highly recommend his books. And then there's Peter Levine, who is a somatic, he is like one of the forefathers of somatic work and trauma in the body. And a lot of his books, there's the tiger, something with the tiger in it. But anyway, Peter Levine, Levine, he's got several books. Some are geared for parents and some are geared just for people. And it has some ways of moving through trauma and just making sense of why we do certain things and fall into certain patterns, and we can shift them. So I would recommend those for anyone really, but anyone who's struggling, especially with addiction or trauma, those are great resources.
I just want to thank you again for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
You came to me, so thank you for coming here.
And I want to thank every single one of you for all the support that you have shown me in my past year of becoming the realistic CEO. So I want to thank you for that. And ways that you can support even more is by going onto my website, www.realisticceo.com, and ordering your copy of the Realistic CEO book. And for every copy that you order, we also match and we donate to a kid in a lower to moderate income community. See you in the next episode. Peace.